Breaking tonight, a lawyer for the Trump presidential transition team is accusing Robert Mueller and his team of inappropriately obtaining private documents as part of its Russia probe. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. We're learning a lot about a letter sent to lawmakers by the Trump transition team today that alleges unlawful conduct by the staff at the General Services Administration in handing over transition documents to the special counsel's office. Congressman Ron DeSantis and Jim Jordan are standing by live to react to this developing story. But first, my opening statement. What would you say if I told you your vote doesn't count? That all the effort you put into the issues and candidates is a waste of time? That there are people at the citadel of power who believe that it is their right to invalidate your choice if they don't agree with it? Folks, this is not about politics. It's much bigger. I doubt in American presidential election history that there has been as great a crime or as large a stain on our democracy than that committed by a criminal cabal in our FBI and the Department of Justice who think they know better than we who our president should be. Now, last week I told you it all started when Cardinal Comey destroyed our FBI with political hacks to set events in motion to destroy the Republic because they didn't like the man we chose to be our president. Well, it's time to take them out in cuffs. I took a lot of heat for that and got a lot of pushback, including Stephen Colbert, whom I invite to come on Justice and say what he said to my face. But tonight, Mr. Colbert, in the spirit of the season, I offer this branch. I hereby double down. This is worse than even I imagined. This week we saw documents that gave us context, or as I would say in my DA life, motive for the crimes that I've already described to you in the past. Not that we need motive, since the elements of the crimes have already been established. And folks, this was the mother lode. Members of the FBI and the Department of Justice, some of whom actually ended up on Bob Mueller's team to prosecute Donald Trump, did everything they could to exonerate Hillary Clinton for her crimes and incriminate Donald Trump with a non-existent crime. For example, change grossly negligent, an element of the crime, to extremely careless in an effort to take Hillary's acts out of the criminal realm where there are no criminal consequences. Example, remove reasonably likely hacked by other countries to possibly, to make it appear that there was no hacking of our classified material on Hillary Clinton's completely unsecured server, which the Romanian hacker Guccifer told NBC News from a prison in Bucharest was as easy as opening an orchid on the internet. The person responsible for changing the language from incriminating to innocent is Peter Strzok, a button man in the crime family of James Comey. Strzok, the same man who oversaw the creation of the Trump dossier, the one bought and paid for by the Clinton team, and sat in on Hillary Clinton's interview, who agreed that her aides, Cheryl Mills and Numa Abedin, could be interviewed together, unheard of in law enforcement, and also Strzok, the one who interviewed Michael Flynn, the only one charged with anything. Strzok was a student of Andrew McCabe, deputy director of the FBI, and according to the Wall Street Journal, Strzok, his gumad, Lisa Page, and McCabe met at around the same time the FBI launched its counterintelligence investigation into possible Trump-Russia ties. Strzok, since he's head of the counterintelligence unit, is reported to have signed the affidavit based on the false dossier for the FISA warrant on Trump and his associates. Now, this crime family shows its motive and clear intent in August of 2016 when Soldier Strzok says in a text, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, an apparent reference to Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, that, back to quotes, there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Close quote. An insurance policy? The deputy director of the FBI, his deputy assistant director, and his girlfriend in the FBI legal department plotting a scheme in the unlikely event that Donald Trump gets elected? They're not willing to take the risk that will elect him, and so the conspiracy to interfere with the election of Donald Trump is hatched. And later, the deputy director and his gomad pay compliments to each other, saying they are both fortunate that they were meant to protect the country from that menace. Bruce Orr, Associate Attorney General, and his wife, their own little crime family. You'll recall Fusion GPS is the company that hired Christopher Steele with Hillary's money to create a false dossier on Donald Trump. The Associate Attorney General's wife actually works for Fusion GPS. And Orr arranges a meeting after the election. Now think about it. After the election with Fusion GPS, which could be for the purpose of covering his own tracks or to get their stories straight in case someone talks. There you have it, folks. The abbreviated version of a criminal cabal, like a crime family in the movies, except this time the FBI is the crime family. As with all crime families, the head needs to be someone who seems holier than thou. The FBI director under whom it all happened called behind his back Cardinal Jim Comey. His consigliere, Andrew McCabe, the lawyer making sure that his wife got Clinton cash to run for office and violating any statute that got in his way. And his button man, Peter Strzok, who, along with his gomad Lisa Page, another FBI lawyer, are getting off in their fight to save the country from Donald Trump. Sounds far-fetched, doesn't it? It's not. There's a core group of arrogant, corrupt, and lawless individuals that felt that they, and not we, should decide a presidential election. And when they failed, they conspired to create the false narrative to not just muddy our choice for president, but to bring down his presidency and his family as well. The evidence is there, the motive disclosed. Still not sure? I ask you to look back on a prediction made by a powerful Trump-hating Democrat in January 2017, talking about Donald Trump.
Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
The only thing that remains is whether we have the fortitude to not just fire these people immediately, but to take them out in cuffs. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, hashtag Judge Jeanine. And joining me now with reaction to my opening statement and all of the developing news today and this week, Congressman Jim Jordan and Congressman Ron DeSantis. All right, gentlemen, good evening. Now, you guys have been front and center in this effort to find out what is going on in Congress. And here we are, almost a year into Mueller's investigation. And the only thing we're finding out about is that if there was a criminal conspiracy or a cabal of any sort, it is on the part of people with injustice in the FBI. And my viewers, guys, we've been watching you for months, and you are very aggressive. But my viewers want to know, what now? What are the next steps? Jim, tell me.
Well, we're going to subpoena Andrew McCabe, subpoena Peter Strzok. And first of all, Judge, your opening was perfect. That lays out the entire story. Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok are central to this. So subpoena Andrew McCabe, Bruce Strzok, Bruce Orr, his wife, and Lisa Page. And I also think the chief of staff of the FBI needs to be brought in. So let's get all the documents. Let's bring them in for depositions. And let's put them on the same witness stand that Rosenstein said on last week and Sessions said on a few weeks ago, and ask them the same tough questions so the American people can get the answers. But we need the documents, we need to depose them, and then we need to subpoena all those individuals.
All right, Congressman DeSantis, how long is that going to take? If my viewers are listening, look, they hear you guys, they know you're both very aggressive. What is going to happen?
Well, Jimmy and I are ready right now, so we want to get it done very quickly because, Judge, this is holding these people accountable.
Get it done Monday.
We should look. I'm there if we can do that. We need to get support from the chairman of the committees and the leadership. I think we actually are going to get that. But unfortunately, Jimmy and I can't just do depositions on our own. So we're working that, and I think we can do it. But here's the thing. Yeah. All those guys need to be held accountable for what they did, but it needs to be exposed because this goes to the heart of whether this whole investigation was legitimate from the start. We still don't know. The government won't admit whether they paid Christopher Steele for the dossier, how the Russia thing started, whether they used it to surveil Trump associates. And so all this stuff needs to be brought to light.
Congressman, with all due respect, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, looks like a deer in the headlights, right, when he's trying to give an answer as to why he's not giving you anything. He's not giving you anything.
Well, we actually, Devin Nunes, to his credit, is going to pursue, and I'll be very supportive of this, as Jimmy will be, contempt of Congress on Rosenstein and on the FBI director if they don't produce the answers to those very simple questions.
You send them a letter. You say show up. They don't show up. Then you subpoena them. All right? And then they come in. Do they take the fifth? What happens then?
Well, I think we can vote on the contempt before we go for the rest at the end of the year, and we should do that. And I think that it would pass overwhelmingly.
What do you think, Jim? Congressman,
I think we bring him in. And Chairman, now you're fine. Chairman Goodlatte has told us he is going to subpoena those individuals, bring them in with the documents, depose them, and put them on the witness stand. If they take the fifth, they take the fifth. But Ron is exactly right. There are two fundamental questions. Did the FBI pay Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier? And was the dossier the basis for getting warrants to spy on people associated with President Trump's campaign? If the answer is yes to either of those questions, then this is as terrible as it gets, as wrong as it gets. This should never happen in the United States of America. So that's why this is so fundamental.
It is fundamental. I can't agree with you more. But these people are still getting a check from us. Not only should they not be working for us and getting a check, I mean, they should be, as far as I'm concerned, indicted. If Jim Comey and Loretta Lynch couldn't put together a grand jury on Hillary Clinton, then, you know, at least at this point, Jeff Sessions should start putting together a grand jury on this stuff. Let me ask you a question, Congressman DeSantis. On November 13th, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, says, I'm going to put people, some of the principals of my department to decide whether we should look at Uranium One. Have you heard anything since November 19th? November 13th?
Not from the Attorney General, we haven't. Now, I will tell you, Judge, we will have news on that. I have a lot of documents from this informant. We're going through them. He is going to testify. There's a lot of information there, but it's all being done with the Congress, working with the informant. The Justice Department has not helped at all.
Okay, and the informant that you're talking about is the one from the Russia case where, you know, Holder and Loretta Lynch told him that he couldn't talk to anybody.
That's right.
Okay, Jim, Congressman Jordan, I'm going to go to what we're just hearing about today, and that is that the Mueller has sought information and got information improperly from the transition team or transition documents in the GSA in the Russia probe. And apparently they're saying that it was unauthorized, that he didn't have the right to do it. He didn't follow protocol. What do you know about that, Congressman?
Just what you're telling me, I have not looked at that in depth, but I will tell you this: and when you went through your whole series of what took place here, you talked about Bruce Orr meeting with the founder of Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson, after the election.
Right.
And you think, why would they meet after the election? Maybe it was to get their story straight. Maybe it was to look at ways to cover up their track. But it also could be, how are we going to double down and go after now President-elect Trump? Thinking about what Chuck Schumer said. So if that, maybe it was both. Maybe they're looking, how can we cover up because our person didn't win the White House? Now what can we also do to go after the now President-elect Donald Trump? That is even scarier, too, if they decide. And think about when all the unmasking, when all the leaks took place, during the transition time. This is scary. And now this comes out about what Mueller was doing with the transition team. Again, this just underscores. Think about this is what amazes me. President Trump won in spite of the Republican establishment being against him, the Democrats being against him, the elite media against him, and The FBI and the Justice Department were against him, and still he prevailed. Still the American people said, we don't care about, we're making that guy our next president. We're putting him in the Oval Office. To me, that's the real story here. In spite of all that, he still won because the American people were so fed up with this kind of baloney. They wanted someone else in that place who could shake things up.
And you know, the arrogance, the chutzpah of people in the FBI, Strzok, McCabe, Comey, Lisa Page, all of them saying, you know, we're going to change this, and the intelligence community going after him. But
Peter
now,
Strzok, Judge, Peter Strzok thinks he's James Bond of the FBI. I mean, he had so much. He ran the Clinton investigation, ran the Russian investigation, did all these. Remember, he interviewed Mike Flynn.
Yes.
He interviewed Mike Flynn after he'd done all this other stuff. Maybe after he put this dossier together. Yeah, and then he interviews Mike Flynn, so that is scary as well. But he thought he was Mr. Super Agent Man, going to save the world from President Trump. But the voters had a different idea.
Yeah,
who should
he wasn't exactly super agent when he was interviewing Hillary Clinton. That was one of the weekest interviews that the FBI has ever done.
It wasn't
he
even
didn't
an interview.
Confront her with any of her wrongdoing. It was a total snow job from the beginning.
You know, Ron, I can't agree with him more. I mean, it was just a discussion. I'm sure they had tea, and that was the end of it, because they could have had her on perjury or lying to a federal officer in 1 second. Did you have classified information on that unprotected server? She says, yes, it's a crime. She says, no, it's a lie. And they didn't do it. But Congressman DeSantis, do you know anything about the latest with Mueller improperly obtaining transition documents in the Russia probe just coming out tonight?
I just found out, but Judge, I think what this underscores is go back to Peter Strzok. He's the lead of the Hillary investigation. It was a patsy investigation. He's pro-Hillary. He's very anti-Trump, says it's his duty to get the FBI to stop him from being elected. So the difference between the lack of zealousness with Hillary's investigation and then getting any document under the sun with Mueller, they never used the grand jury with Hillary. They didn't do subpoenas or search warrants. Now they're trying to get everything they can. So do we have equal application of the law or not, or do we give some people a pass and then scorch the earth with other people based on their political
Congressman Jim Jordan, Congressman Ron DeSantis, you're out front there. You're at the tip of the spear. Thank you so much for being here tonight, both of you. All right, so what do we do? My next guest wants to hit the pause button on the Mueller investigation until we get the facts of what's really going on. Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, is next on Justice, and later, Street Justice. Don't miss this one. Here we are at Bryant Park trying to find out what people would buy President Trump if he were on their gift list. Stay tuned to find out what everyone says. Welcome back to Justice. My next guest is fired up and says we should, at the very least, put a pause on the Mueller investigation and get an independent analysis of what went on. Joining me now with more, the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. All right, good evening, Tom. You know, this past week was stunning to me, because if you heard my opening statement, it put everything in context. It gave motive to the actions for anyone who wasn't sure if those actions were benign or malignant. And to me, it is the dressing on the cake. And what I want to know right now is whether or not, if we've only gotten 375 of 10,000 texts, whether we can expect even more context of these actions by the FBI and DOJ.
Yes, but they're not going to put out the material willingly. I mean, we've been fighting with them about these texts. They've been ignoring our request about the denial or the removal of Strzok from the Mueller investigation. So we just had to sue last week for the records. We know how whistleblowers are treated by the Justice Department and FBI if they think they did something wrong. In this case, we know what happens when they are protected. These two, Peter Strzok, are being protected, Lisa Page is being protected, Andrew McCabe is being protected, and Andrew Weissman, who is the number 2 at Mueller's operations, being protected. He's about as partisan as it comes. I don't understand why Rosenstein is frozen in place, and frankly the FBI director, in handling this corruption that's going on right in front of them.
Here's the bottom line. Rod Rosenstein and Christopher Wray, they need to fire all of those individuals. These guys don't have a right to a job. They don't have a right to collect money that we're paying for when they are accused of all of these actions. And now, if we had a grand jury, this could be proven in a second. In November, the Attorney General talks about, well, I'm going to look at this uranium one and put people from the Justice Department in to decide whether we should look at it. Whether you should look at it, everything about that is a pay for play. But let me ask you this. There is a sound. We have Senator Ron Johnson, who was on my colleague Tucker Carlson's show a couple nights ago. I think we have it.
So what can you do?
We'll keep making these things public, and hopefully public pressure will force the FBI to come clean if they really want to remove the suspicion surrounding not only what happened back under the Hillary Clinton email investigation, but currently what's happening under the Mueller investigation.
I'm not saying that.
Okay, so, Tom, hopefully public pressure? What's the public going to do? Come out like a lynch mob? No, public pressure doesn't help. We need someone with a grand jury or the authority of law. What do you suggest?
Well, in fact, FBI can't spend $1 without Congress appropriating it. So for senators to say they just have to rely on public pressure like they're an average citizen, it's a bit odd to hear. Look, we're suing in court. Frankly, we get documents Congress can't get, so I'm quite confident we'll get something that Congress isn't even getting. And you know what I think is very interesting? Now, General Flynn's case is before Judge Sullivan, who granted us discovery in the Clinton email case. He has a record of not being terribly patient with government misconduct. And I think if the issue is raised with him, was this FBI special agent who hated Donald Trump and was obviously doing something wrong to prevent him from being successful in office, did he mess up or mess with the Flynn investigation as a result? Is the Flynn investigation, is the plea deal clean? And I think the judge can make inquiries there.
Well, but you know what?
And he may do it on his own, given all the news.
Well, Judge Sullivan is the judge who is very hard on the State Department. And you're right. But for you, Tom, and I've given you kudos many times, you're getting stuff through Freedom of Information and a judge who understands the law and what is public and what we're entitled to see more than Congress is. That's what's so frustrating about all of this. So what we've got to do is have a federal judge understand that contempt is a citation that even he can impose on lawyers who don't do what they're supposed to do. Yes?
I agree. And you know what else can happen? The president can take steps to make sure the American public knows what its Justice Department, FBI have been up to. Because right now, the agencies on their own are stonewalling both Judicial Watch and Congress. And the president can intervene and say, look, you've got to release documents according to law here. Stop playing games. Stop telling people they have to wait years for documents.
I agree.
When you can release them tomorrow. Release the text.
All right. Tom Fitton, thanks for everything you do. Thanks for being on with us tonight. And Street Justice still ahead. And next, the panel is popping. Dan Bongino ready for battle and Chris Hahn right here in studio. The debate is about to begin. Don't go away.
Live from America's news headquarters, I'm Patty Ann Brown. Senator Chuck Schumer of New York is calling on the TSA to speed up plans to secure major transit hubs across the country. The senator wants the Transportation Security Administration to equip public transit hubs with scanners that can detect suicide vests and other explosives. This comes after last week's bombing at the Port Authority bus terminal in New York City. The TSA says the scanner technology is still in the testing phase and not yet ready to be deployed. And 5 skiers were hurt, dozens more stranded above the slopes when a ski lift malfunctioned in central Pennsylvania Saturday morning. Officials say a lift chair at the Tussey Mountain Ski Resort slipped along the haul rope, sliding backwards into the chair behind it, causing a domino effect. It took nearly an hour and a half to get everyone down from that lift. I'm Patty Ann Brown. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
They're spending millions and millions of dollars. There is absolutely no collusion. I didn't make a phone call to Russia. I have nothing to do with Russia. Everybody knows it. That was a Democrat hoax. It was an excuse for losing the election. And it should have never been this way, where they spent all these millions of dollars.
That's President Trump again reiterating no collusion with Russia and trying to actually get things done in that swamp called Washington, like tax cuts. But joining me now to battle it all out, my star political panel for the night, former Secret Service agent and best-selling author Dan Bongino, along with former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer, radio talk show host Chris Hahn. All right, guys, this week, if you listen to my opening statement, you'll realize that I believe that we got motive, we got context to all of those texts and things things and actions that people said, well, that was benign. It didn't mean anything. But now we know that these people wanted to stop Donald Trump from becoming the president. And once he became, they decided that with counterintelligence operatives that they would start the Trump-Russia collusion thing, which, by the way, is not a crime. So, Chris, I will let you start.
Well, look. I think the worst thing that could happen right now is for the president or anybody who supports him to try to interfere with the Mueller investigation.
What Mueller investigation?
Look, there's an investigation going on. Let it play out. Let the chips fall where it may. And if it goes off in a tangent like Ken Starr did, it won't be that big of a deal.
Well,
but if
it
there's
is a
something real
tangent.
there,
I'll tell you why it's a tangent, because they got Manafort on tax with Gates, and then they've got Mike Flynn for lying, having nothing to do.
We don't know exactly why Mike Flynn pled guilty, and we're going to find out why he pled
guilty to lying to them. Right.
That was the lower
Bongino hit
crime.
it. Dan hit it.
Yeah, Chris, here's where you're wrong on this, Chris. I always love debating you, but you're always wrong, unfortunately. This is not an investigation anymore, Chris. This is an inquisition. As the judge set up in the opening statement, and she's correct, if the investigation is founded on the premise that this is going to be strictly a political operation, not a law enforcement one, based on the texts of two of the lead investigators in the case, or I should say a lead investigator and his mistress, who was a lawyer, who already admitted in their text, that they were looking for some kind of, quote, insurance policy because it's too big of a risk. The whole investigation is corrupted.
I love debating you, too. We have a good time together. But I got to tell you something. Yes. You sounded an awful like I did in 1998. Okay? So let's just let it play out.
You're the one who says the past doesn't matter. You want to tell me why people in the FBI are talking about an insurance policy in case that menace Donald Trump wins? What does that tell you?
People robots?
Wait.
Do they not have opinions?
Go ahead, Dan.
No, Chris, hold on. I'm allowed a rebuttal. You are a judge, right? I'm allowed a rebuttal here, okay? Chris, here's the difference. Whitewater and all that stuff that happened with the Clintons actually happened, okay? I agree with you. Let me point stipulated. I don't like special counsels either, Chris. But don't deny that Whitewater, Travelgate, all that stuff.
Nobody came out with those crimes, though.
Chris, that stuff, that's fine, but it actually happened. The problem I have with this, Chris, is you can sit on this show right now. You cannot look in the camera. I challenge you right now. I'll fly up to New York tonight and dump $100 in your wallet if you can look into the camera and lay out what crime Donald Trump committed. Go ahead, do it right now.
I am going to let Mueller determine what crime was committed.
Because
there
all
is
the people
no
who are
crime.
complaining about Mueller,
Is Russia collusion a crime?
You said he was a great guy when he got appointed.
Is Russia collusion a crime? Russia collusion is not a crime.
If you are working with a foreign government to influence this election, you have committed a crime.
Really? Go ahead, Dan.
Foreign governments are not allowed to participate in our elections.
Okay, Chris, let me try this again. I'll fly up to New York tonight and give you $1,000 if you can show me an ounce of evidence that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians to win the election. Just give me anything.
Dan,
I've read
your books. You need your money more than I do. Please keep
What?
it.
My books were bestsellers.
Come on, hold on to that money.
Be quiet, Chris. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to something that's moving backwards, but it's just coming out now because they hide everything.
Right.
Now, Hillary and her girlfriend, Uma, are allowed to walk out of the State Department. We hear this with 5 boxes of information. So what Hillary didn't delete, get rid of with BleachBit, or destroy with a hammer, she carries out of the State Department. How is this allowed to happen, Dan?
Judge, I was a former investigator. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Let me double down on you. Not only that, Judge, when they go in and interview them about the email scandal, they give them back the computers.
Yep.
I mean, what kind of, Judge, you're familiar with chain of custody and evidence, right? You give them the crime, if this was a murder weapon case, right? Do you give the gun back to the murderer and go, hey, by the way, keep this for us for a court date later? This is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. I mean, it's
okay, why are they allowed to take things out?
She did have some photos on the wall. Give her a break. We don't know where in those boxes.
Photos on the walls.
Conspiracy nonsense.
Let me tell you, the idea that you destroyed 33,000 emails of yoga classes, which she apparently didn't go to, and her daughter's wedding, is ridiculous. You know,
and I know the wedding. You know how hard it is to plan a wedding.
Yeah,
right?
and I did it in no time. No, it's not such a big deal. And you know what? If you use money from the Clinton Foundation to pay for the wedding, it's even easier.
Come on now.
All right. right, no, you come on.
There's no evidence.
All right,
Give me one.
You know what? You show
Dan will
me.
give you $1,000 if you promote some evidence.
Show me one iota of evidence that this Clinton Foundation was properly structured, and every attorney general who is not corrupted part of it is looking at it.
I can say this, Mr. President, and everybody else who's watching tonight, let it play out. Let's see where it goes. Any attempt to make anything go away is going to make it worse. We saw what happened in Alabama, and look.
No, we're not talking about Alabama. We're talking about evidence.
It has a lot to do with it.
Now, Dan, let me ask you this. Mueller apparently calls GSA and says, I want documents from the Trump transition team because they had been apparently working in GSA offices, documents that some are protected by presidential privilege, attorney-client privilege. Mueller doesn't go about getting subpoenas and doing what he's supposed to do. He just bullies his way in and gets it. Why do you think Mueller would do that?
Well, because this is not a properly conducted investigation. Again, it's an inquisition, and if I would have done this as a federal agent, I'd probably be fired for running an improper investigation. Judge, nothing's right about this case. We have a president right now who's been a victim of an unprecedented unmasking scandal. Six-figure sums paid to people to make up sexual harassment charges, a litany of fake news charges, an improper investigation, corrupted officials on the inside who hate Donald Trump, and Chris still defends this disaster.
Okay, but you know what, Dan, I have to tell you, I mean, you couldn't write this. You couldn't write a book like this. No one would believe it would happen. And Chris, last word, we got 5 seconds.
I think that there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to unpack. I think the special counsel is going to get to the bottom of it. I think the Strzok thing proves that he's an honest guy. He removed him when he saw that he might be biased.
There's nothing on
why didn't he remove his Gumad's Lisa Page?
There's a reason why the Deputy Attorney General says that this is going well. And the Deputy Attorney General is appointed by the President.
Dan, finish.
There's nothing to unpack, Con. It's a scam. Wake up. Take the blinders off. Gosh,
Dan Bongino, Chris Hahn, thanks so much. And from the usual celebrity suspects to a local politician, I heard some outrageous things this week. And joining me next to talk about all of it is Michael Tamero. You're going to love this segment. Stay with us. Violence in Chicago is out of control. So take a listen to what one Chicago politician thinks is the answer to help fight that violence.
I'm hoping to appeal to the UN to actually come to Chicago and meet with victims of violence and maybe even possibly help out in terms of peacekeeping efforts, because I think it's so critical for us to make sure that these neighborhoods are safe.
UN peacekeepers? Are you kidding me? And that's just one of the most outrageous things I heard this week. And joining me now to talk about it all, Michael Tamero, host of In the Foxlight.
Yes.
All right, Michael, hit it. What do you think? What do you think of that?
I mean, as if the minority communities of Chicago have not suffered enough under liberal Democratic rule for decades. This guy wants to bring in the very forces who most recently been accused of all sorts of scandal and abuse in places like Haiti and abroad. Right. But, you know, it's sort of like the ultimate liberal, like, obsession.
But you know, this whole idea with the liberals and their global impression of the world, what makes them think the UN and not the local police, the state's attorney, the United States attorneys? Maybe they ought to try prosecuting crime, making sure that they have informants, that they go in there. I used to talk in the south side of Chicago when I had a court show there. I got to tell you, the cops didn't even want to go with me. It was so dangerous. They wore Kevlar. I just wore a dress.
Well, it's like one more example of liberals trying to subvert the national sovereignty of this country to outside groups.
Exactly.
When they should just send in Justice Jeanine.
Yeah, I'll straighten them out, that's for sure. All right, more outrageous comments of the week. Now, I got a tweet here from Chelsea Handler. Chelsea Handler says, I'm watching the real Donald Trump speak. It's like watching a remedial penguin try to make a speech. You are so unfit and ill-informed about the military, about criminals, and about law enforcement. I can't wait for your friends in law enforcement to drag you out of the White House in cuffs. What do you think of that one, Michael?
Her tweets are like the gift that keeps on giving this holiday season. You know, what part of that speech did she not like? When he, you know, threw out his unwavering support to our police forces and men and women who protect us?
Yeah.
You know, it's just she has become so unhinged, like so many out there in Hollywood right now. And she wants to go into public service because she's managed to do, with her show, the one thing that Netflix rarely does and have her show canceled.
Yeah, she had to cancel. Her show's canceled on
and
Netflix.
Netflix rarely cancels shows.
But don't we have her in the bathtub? Doesn't she tweet with herself in a bathtub, guys? I think we should have that thing. But anyway, take him out in handcuffs.
So unhinged, so rabid towards Donald Trump and the First Lady Melania. I proffer a theory about Chelsea Handler. You're going to hear it first here on Just Jeanine, like that little boy in the classroom who starts pulling the girl's ponytail in front of him.
No.
I think she may be crushing a little bit on Donald Trump.
Yeah?
Just saying.
Do you think?
Possibly.
Wow, I
She's
got to tell you.
obsessed with him.
Yeah, maybe that's why she's so jealous of Melania. When she says, Melania, who speaks 5 languages and is drop-dead gorgeous, she says, why would I talk to her? She can't even speak English. All right, let's go. Okay, now... Here we got another tweet from Rosie O'Donnell, one of my favorites. All right. Every single senator that votes yes needs to be voted out and ostracized socially for betraying their country and fellow Americans. Hashtag GOP tax scam. Hashtag shame. What do you think of that?
Liberal tyranny at its best. You know, you just can't disagree with someone. You have to ostracize them and disgrace them. And, you know, Rosie did a movie in 1994 called Exit to Eden. It was awful. And in this movie, she actually wears a leather S&M outfit. So
really?
If anyone is not ostracized after wearing that, Rosie, you shouldn't be ostracized for anything.
Yeah, but you know what I don't understand? Aren't they the people who said they were going to move if he became president? Why aren't they moving?
Liberals rarely live up to their promises. But, you know, it sort of reminds me, all these Hollywood hysterics and the Hollywood people on Twitter, reminds me of that last night in 1980 during the Reagan campaign when the hecklers were trying to drown him out. And I sort of wished Donald Trump would channel that moment when Reagan just leaned into the microphone and said, shut up.
Oh, yeah.
And the place went wild.
I love it. I love it. Don't we both wish? Anyway, Michael Tamero, love having you on Justice.
Great to see you.
Thanks so much. And Street Justice is next. Stay with us. Tis the season for giving. So this week I went over to Bryant Park Christmas Village to ask people what they would buy President Trump for Christmas this year. What would you buy Donald Trump for Christmas?
Anything he wants. I would get Donald Trump my life. I love him.
If you had to buy Donald Trump a gift for Christmas, what would you buy him?
Condoms?
If you had to buy Donald Trump a gift for Christmas, what would you buy him?
Impeachment.
If he doesn't get impeached, what would you get him?
A vacation in Bali.
Didn't Hillary get money from Bali?
No, Hillary did everything right.
And there you have it from Manhattan. If Donald Trump were on your Christmas list, you had to buy him a gift, what would you buy him?
Well, it wouldn't be a tie because he's got plenty of them, okay?
Right.
So I would just give him lots of prayers.
Yes, a prayer that he continue to do what he's doing because I feel safer. I feel that we are finally coming around, and I have a feeling that with God's help, he's going to unite us all.
All right, Brixton, if you had to buy Donald Trump a gift for Christmas, what would you buy him? Come here. Would you give him a kiss? Okay, I think he's kind of giving him a smooch. If you had to buy Donald Trump a Christmas present, what would you buy him?
Oh, man.
That's a tough one, I know.
I wouldn't give him $1 million because that would mean nothing. I think a heartfelt thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I can't wait to vote again for you in 2020. We'll have to do.
A big American flag.
A hat and a scarf. Make sure he's warm in the White House.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
A hard pillow because I love him.
Aw, and you?
Oh, probably a bottle of champagne to celebrate him being a president and us.
But he doesn't drink alcohol. He never drinks.
Well, then we'll get him a sparkling apple juice.
Buy him a muzzle.
I'll bet you two have a great relationship.
How about a Hillary Clinton dartboard?
So here I am at the Truffleist at Bryant Park, and I think this is the perfect place to actually buy something for President Trump. Truffle oil. If you were going to buy something for President Trump, if he were on your list, what would you buy him? I'm buying him truffle oil. What are you buying him?
I'm going to buy him the wall.
Will you help him build it?
Absolutely not, but I got truffles.
If you had to buy President Trump a gift for Christmas, what would you buy him?
Oh, my gosh. Something gold.
Yeah?
Something beautiful. Maybe a nice pin.
A nice pin?
A nice pin. So he can sign all those correct orders in for our
country.
So you like those executive orders?
I most certainly do.
Okay, but what do you think he needs?
Oh my God, he needs more support.
Yes.
That's what he needs. America, step up. Let's go.
Okay, goodbye, Brookston. Merry Christmas. We'll be right back.